we'll get started. We'll get the Spanish translation up and running as soon as we can. Welcome, everybody. We'll just give just a few moments for other people to join us as well. And I can see the number of attendees going up as we speak. So just bear with us just for a few moments and then we'll get started. Okay, welcome everybody. Welcome to this VNGOC members meeting. We really happy to have an opportunity to kind of speak with all of you today and to share some of the information about the CND that's coming up in just a few weeks' time. So thank you for joining us. We are still waiting for our Spanish translator to join us. So we don't currently have Spanish translation, but we will have that set up as soon as we can. As soon as we get the translator on board, we'll set that up in the channel. So just to say a few words, before we begin, just to welcome you all. My name is Jamie Bridge. I'm the chair of the Vienna NGO Committee on drugs, so I'll be kind of trying to facilitate today's meeting. Just to let you know, as you can hopefully see on the screen, the call is being recorded today, and that's mainly so that we can put it up on our website for those who aren't able to join us right now from different time zones and things like that. So just to let you know, it will be recorded. You can submit questions at any time during the session, and we'd encourage you to use the Q&A function, which you should hopefully be able to see on your your list of commands on Zoom. So if you use the Q&A function, and then we will have time for questions and answers towards the end of the session. And by the end of the session, we will also be joined by our colleagues as well from the CND Secretariat. I see Doris is already with us from the Secretariat, so welcome and thank you so much for joining us. And I believe others from UNODC will be joining us as well soon. If you do want to access those translations, you will be able to do so. You use the interpretation option in the menu, and you'll see there channels for English, French, Russian, and Spanish. As I say, we are waiting to set up the Spanish, and we will set that up as soon as the translator arrives. If you have any technical problems or anything's not working, please let us know in the Q&A or the chat, and my wonderful colleague Sarah, who's working really hard behind the scenes, will help and will try and fix things for you. So the French and the Russian channel is working right now, and thank you to our translators for joining us today. And the Spanish channel will be working as soon as we can get it up and running. So today we really just want to talk about what's going to happen next month at the 65th session of the Commission on Narcotic Drugs. And we plan to do that in two parts. First, I want to quickly run through the plans for the Vienna NGO Committee's annual general meeting. We have an AGM every year at the CND, so this year is no different, and we just want to talk you through the plans there, and obviously, again, answer any questions you may have. And then we'll focus more specifically on the CND itself, how you can engage, the different steps that you might need to take, and again, as I say, lots of time for any questions that you may have. Let me just get the right information on the screen. Okay, so for the AGM this year, the VNGOC board has taken the decision again that we will do it as an online meeting. The reason being, as we'll discuss later, there is going to be only very limited civil society participation in the building in Vienna. So we didn't want to hold a meeting in person if it meant that the majority of our members wouldn't be able to be there and wouldn't be able to engage. So we're going to do it online, very similar to what we did last year. And that means we're going to do it in 2 separate parts. So what we're proposing is that we have a shorter meeting on the Thursday before the CND. So that's the 10th of March. You can see the link on the slide here to register. And these slides and all of these links, everything will be available on the VNGOC website as well for you to see and to access. So at this opening, this will really be the opening of the AGM. And what we'll do in this meeting is in terms of the AGM agenda, we'll introduce everyone, we'll do the roll call, we'll hopefully approve the minutes from the last meeting. And then we'll open board elections, and I'll be handing over to the nominations committee to run that process. Because this will be a shorter meeting, we also plan to merge it with the pre-CND orientation that we do every year. Normally, when a CND is in person, we normally have a meeting for civil society on the Monday morning before everything starts. So what we're going to do is have that meeting on the Thursday, talk people through the coming week, and then we'll go into the AGM and open the AGM. So again, all information on that meeting will be on our website and the link to register as well. And we'll follow that up a week later with the second and probably the main part of the AGM, which is where we'll go through all of the other agenda items that we have to cover, and also, have a discussion on any other issues and topics that we may want to discuss as a group of committee members. So that will be on the 17th of March, Thursday, the 17th of March. It'll be at 4:30 Vienna time. That's to make sure we're not clashing with any other events or side events, in particular. And that's where we will be confirming the election results. We'll discuss the annual report, the financial report, the coming year's budget. We'll appoint new auditors, a new nominations committee. We'll also receive our regular update from UNODC colleagues. And as I said, there'll be space as well for any other business that may be raised. So the AGM will be 2 separate Zoom calls a week apart. And between the 2 of them, we'll cover all of the business that we need to cover. Obviously, as always, we know that it's not going to be the same as an in-person meeting. We know that it's not, nothing can replace the value of having so many members together at the CND. But given the restrictions that still exist, the board felt that this was the best way to proceed. And I really hope that next year we can get back to the usual practice of actually meeting in person in Vienna. So I'm going to hand over to my colleague Sarah now, if that's okay, Sarah. And she's just going to talk us through some of the mechanics of the board elections, because again, just like last year, they're going to be online this year. So Sarah will take us through the mechanics, and then we have with us some of the members of the nominations committee who can then talk us through the nominations that have been received. So over to you, Sarah. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie. And just to let everyone know, we've now also sorted out the Spanish interpretation and it's up and running.
Amazing.
So you can now click Spanish in the languages.
Thank you so much.
So as Jamie said, we will again be voting online. So if you remember last year, we'll do it pretty much the same way. You will have to register to vote via an email to info@vngoc.org. And that has to be done before the 9th of March. So that's 24 hours before the start of the AGM. This is the usual deadline we have for all these things. We will then open up the voting on Monday, the 14th March, and you will have a 23-hour time period for each position to vote via the online platform Election Runner. You will receive the link via email just at the start of the first voting period to the email that you sent us. And you will then have the 23-hour time period to vote for your candidate of choice. And the same will then be repeated on Tuesday for the position of treasurer and on Wednesday for the position of secretary. And after each voting period, you will receive the results of the election for that position via email, and we'll also post it on the website and on social media to make sure that everyone sees it and can take it into consideration. And at the end of the complete voting period, you'll receive the results for all 3 positions. And of course, they will also be announced in the AGM part 2, as Jamie mentioned earlier. Thanks, Jamie. I think that's it. Yeah, just if you haven't voted last year, I will be using electionrunner.com as the platform. It's a secure online platform where you'll have to log in and enter a voting key that you'll receive via email. You can then just click on the candidate of your choice, submit your ballot, and then you'll have voted. We won't see what you voted, but we'll just see that you actually submitted a vote, but not who you voted for. So it's a secure election, just as if you would submit a ballot via paper. Thanks, Jamie.
Thank you very much, Sarah. And yeah, just to say that this is the same system that we used last year, and it ran pretty smoothly last year. So we're kind of confident to use it again this time round. And to answer Shane, I see you messaging in the chat about the timing. For each of the elections, it's a 23-hour window in which you can vote. And the reason we have that is so that means that for every time zone around the world, you will be able to vote during normal business hours. So wherever you are in the world, we've tried to set this up in a way that it's as accessible as possible. And then the last hour is 23 hours to vote, and then the last hour is just for Sarah and the system to collate the votes, announce the result, and then we launch the next period as well. So everybody should be able to access this. If you have any problems at all, then just get straight in touch with me or with Sarah, and we'll fix things as soon as possible. The nice thing about having a 24-hour window is we also have time to fix things if we have to, in terms of making sure everyone has access. Okay, so this year we have a nominations committee who volunteered for the role, as always happens, and they've worked really hard and done an excellent job putting out the call for applications, but also reviewing those applications, making sure that everybody was eligible. And then, as per the new terms of reference for the nominations committee, for the first time, they're also providing a recommended slate. So rather than introduce that myself, I'm really pleased that we have Jorge here from the nominations committee, who can talk us through the nominations that we have for you to choose from, and how the nominations committee did their work. So Jorge, over to you.
Thank you, Jamie. Hello, everyone. My name is Jorge. I am the co-founder of an organization named Instituto RIA. We've been conducting activities in Mexico. I'm going to speak about the eligible candidates for each board position. For deputy chair, we have Mater Kosir from an organization named UTRIP in Slovenia. Dr. Kawal Deep Kur from the South Asian Drugs and Addictions Research Council in India. Maria Angélica de Castro Comis from the Centro de Convivencia EDELEI in Brazil. Ibrahim Shahzada from the Northern Citizen Community Board in Pakistan. Sayed Ramin Rafar from the Rebirth Charity Society in Iran. That's for deputy chair. If we go to the next slide, please.
Yeah.
Thank you. These are the candidates for treasurer, and we have Beatrix Bass from Youth Rise in Hungary, Michael Anguria from SAF TESO in Uganda, Yulia Batau from Students for Sensible Drug Policy in UK, Sana Ula Ratore from the Pakistan Youth Organization in Pakistan. And that's for treasurer. And the next slide, thank you. And for secretary, the candidates are Aisha Almas Ashraf from the World Federation Against Drugs in Pakistan, Beatrix Bass from the Youth Rise in Hungary, Michael Anguria from SAF TESO, Uganda, Maria Ines Feria from No Box Philippines, in the Philippines, and Sanayul Aratore from Pakistan Youth Organization in Pakistan. So let me present the recommended slate of the nominations committee. This is part of a new mandate given to the nominations committee that requires us to present a consensus slate to the membership that would provide as much balance as possible on the new board, with representation from at least 4 different world regions, at least 2 board members identifying as men and 2 identifying as women, representation from at least 4 thematic areas, and at least 1 person with current or previously lived experience of drug use or someone otherwise directly impacted by drug policies. And we received 12 eligible applications. For this year's elections. We had identified the following gaps in the memberships, that we need to prioritize candidates from Asia, Africa, Middle East, North America. Also, that we need to ensure that the treasurer is based in a country that can have access to the VNGOC bank account. For the current board, the treasurer that is based in Uganda has faced significant issues in fulfilling her role due to the restrictions in access to Austrian bank accounts. We need to prioritize candidates that are working in the areas of prevention, treatment, recovery, and social reintegration, to prioritize individuals with current or previous lived experience of drug use or somebody impacted by drug policies, and to prioritize the representation from candidates identifying as women. So based on this, we're happy to present this proposed slate for the position of Deputy Chairperson, Mater Kosir from the Institute for Research and Development in Slovenia. As a treasurer, we're proposing Beatrix Bass from Youth Rise, based in Hungary, and for Deputy Secretary, Aisha Almas Ashraf from the World Federation Against Drugs in Pakistan. And this would enable us to have representation from Europe, Asia, Latin America, and Oceania. We will have 2 men and 4 women in the board. Representation from the following thematic areas, which is prevention, harm reduction, treatment, drug policy reform, and access to medicines, and someone with lived experience of drug use. We hope you will be able to support our recommended slate, although I would like to remind you that this is a non-binding recommendation and members remain free to support the candidates they prefer. And looking ahead, one gap that we saw from this round was the lack of applications from candidates from Africa. So we hope that the next nominations committee will be able to seek and select a candidate from this region the next time around. And finally, through discussions from the group, it seems like the treasurer position needs to be based either in Europe or in North America to ensure that they don't have issues in accessing the VNGOC accounts in Austria. So this is something to bear in mind when people are applying for this position also. And yeah, this is all from my side. Thank you very much. And
thank you so much, Jorge. I really appreciate it. And yeah, and thanks also for highlighting that this is a recommendation. All members are still free to vote however they want in this election. This is just a recommendation that has been made. And Jorge, it was a consensus, yes, between amongst the nominations committee, which is fantastic. So thank you so much for that. And just to explain as well, that the slate you see in front of you now, in terms of the balance that Jorge was talking about, it also takes into account the 3 board members who aren't up for election this year. Because as you remember, we have 6 members of the board and 3 come up for election in each year. They rotate between themselves. So myself as the chair and Penny Hill, who's with us today as the deputy secretary, and also Heloisa as deputy treasurer. Our positions are not up for election, but still we were factored into the discussions of the nominations committee to make sure that across all 6 of us, there is as much balance as possible. So yeah, thank you very much, Jorge, for that. And again, we lots of time for questions at the end or in the chat, or you can use the Q&A function. But I hope that's all very clear. So moving on, just the last point on the elections and the AGM in general is that the elections are open to all VNGOC members, of course, as you'd expect, but it's open to members in good standing. And by that, what we mean is that it's open to members who have paid their fees for the last 2 years, so for 2021 and for 2022. You can see on here the fees that apply for 2022, and we're freezing though. We're not suggesting any change to those compared to previous years. So these hopefully will look very familiar to you. If your organization's annual budget is under 10,000 euros or the equivalent in your local currency, there is no fee. The membership is free of charge, but we do still ask you to submit a membership commitment form to show that you are still actively engaged in the work of the committee. So, you know, that also, when we say good standing, if you're a non-paying member, we do still require those commitment forms as well in order for you to be eligible to vote. If you have any concerns or questions, or you just want to check if you are in good standing, again, Sarah is the best person to contact with any of those queries. Do let us know if you need any help or any assistance with that. Again, membership will need to be paid before the whole process starts. So Sarah, am I right in saying that the deadline would be the 9th of March as well?
The 7th of March, ideally, just to be sure that things are fixed and we won't be able to resolve any issues on 9th of March.
Yeah, okay, so thank you, Sarah. Oh yeah, and I can see it on the slide there as well. I do apologize. 7th of March, the deadline for the payments. So that's all we really needed to say about the AGM. And again, thanks to Jorge and Sarah for helping us out with that. And so now let's turn our attention to the actual Commission on Narcotic Drugs itself, which is happening from the 14th to the 18th of March, 2022. And I'll just take you through a little bit of information about the event, about how NGOs can participate. But before we do that, I just want to check, because I can't see the full list. Do we have Mirella with us from the Civil Society unit at UNODC? Yes. Hi, Mirella, I can see you now.
Hi.
So I'm going to give the floor to Mirella, who heads up the Civil Society unit at UNODC, just to say a few words from their perspective, and you know, to just let you know a bit about what we can expect in a couple of weeks in Vienna. So over to you, Mirella. Thanks for joining.
Thank you, Jamie, and good morning, good afternoon to all of you. I see we have 63 following the session, so it's great, and we really hope to have more of you also following the Commission on Narcotic Drugs during the week of 18th of March. As Jamie said, this year it is still a kind of hybrid, more virtual than in person, but I'm very pleased to see that some will still come to Vienna. I take also the opportunity to thank, I was listening to the work on the election and the Vienna NGO Committee General Conference, and to thank the nomination committee that provided some recommendation. It's so important and essential that the Vienna NGO Committee remains balanced in terms of geographical, gender, and ideological, I would say. Yes, what to expect from this year CND? You will know it essentially more in details later when my colleague from the Secretariat will speak, but also there will be the NGO briefing that will be on 10th of March at 3 p.m. As Jamie said, usually we hold it in person. in the actually NGO lounge, but this year on the Monday morning before the start of the commission, but this time we will hold it the week before, considering that in any case it's a hybrid format. But good news is that for those who are coming, there will be the NGO lounge, which is the usual room for those who know it. It's in the C building. It's in the M building, MOE, I think 027, on the corner of the ground floor. We will make sure that you know where it is. It's important because considering this, the side events are online mainly, so it gives you an opportunity, you know, to sit down and listen in a room if there is no other space available. It's also a way where you can, you know, keep in touch for those who are coming. Of course, we will make sure as the Secretariat requested us with the civil society unit will take care of the tracing contact, because the pandemic is not over, even if in March the situation in Austria will be easing considerably. The other big event was mentioned, but it's the informal dialogue with the executive director, which is confirmed now for Wednesday, 16th of March at 10:30. I know you have provided already the question, which is very useful, and it is an opportunity to interact, even if it's in a hybrid format, with our executive director. Yes, many things ahead. I look forward, I especially really look forward to seeing some of you after 2 years, and prepare for let's hope 2023 fully in person CND. Yeah. Thank you, Jamie.
Thanks so much, Mirella. Really appreciate it. Okay, so as Mirella said, the NGO briefing will be the week before, so we do encourage you to come to that and to join us there as well, and Sarah has shared the link in the chat for that one. In terms of actually attending the CND, it's going to be what the UN calls a hybrid event. So I think for the majority of us, it is going to be an online meeting. But there is some capacity for people to be there in person. So we put together this slide, which we hope kind of explains in a way the 3 different levels or 3 different tiers of engagement that you can have as an NGO with CND this year. And I'll actually start at the bottom of this slide. So if all you want to do is observe the plenary and to watch the proceedings, listen to the proceedings, and to hear the government statements and the other statements that are made. Or if you just want to attend some of the side events or participate in the side events. If that's all you want to do, you do not need to register for the CND. The plenary is going to be webcast, so it will be available to everybody. The side events are all held online. They will be available to everybody. Some might require you to register individually for them, but that's up to the individual organizers. So if that's the engagement that you desire from CND this year, then you do not need to register. You don't really need to take any further action other than just following the information and then clicking on the correct link on the day. And you don't need to have ECOSOC status to do that. Anyone from civil society can follow that plenary and can engage in those side events. It is open. If, however, you want to do additional things to that, so if, for example, you want to also observe the committee of the whole, where the resolutions are negotiated, if you want to be included on the CND participants list, if you want to be able to actually see who else is on the platform and maybe be able to send them messages and interact with other participants through the platform, and if you want to make a statement to the plenary, or if you want to do any of those things, you do need to register online, because you just being on the webcast won't be enough. You need to be registered and you need to access the meeting via the online platform that the Secretariat have provided. And I'll talk a bit more about how you do that in a second. So you do need to register for the CND if you want to do any of those additional things in terms of how you will engage. Remember, with the Committee of the Whole, we are, as civil society, we are only observers. We cannot intervene, we cannot speak or play any active role in those negotiations, because they are purely between the governments. But we can apply to make statements. To register online, that is only open to ECOSOC accredited NGOs, just like it normally is for the CND passes. So that's another consideration. If you don't have ECOSOC accreditation, we would recommend that you look through the list and you see if there's a partner organization that does have accreditation, and ask if they might be interested to include you on their delegation, so to speak. And then there is, as Mirella has already said, there is the option for a more limited number of civil society participants to be there in person. And for that, you also need to register using the same process, as well as having to comply with all of the relevant COVID restrictions and regulations that are in place in the Vienna International Centre. So, this involves, for example, frequent testing, tracing information, and obviously physical distancing in the meeting itself. In the plenary, so that one of the main considerations for this meeting, and one of the main restrictions that the CND Secretariat has had to work with, is that in all of the rooms, physical distancing is being applied. So if for those of you who have been to a CND before, if you imagine that big plenary room that they use in the M building, there's now only around, I think, 200, maybe 220 people allowed in that room. So in the plenary, each member state is being limited to just one seat, and civil society is being assigned 8 seats between us. So that's why I say it's a much more limited participation. For a normal CND, there's 200 or more civil society people at the CND in person, and quite frequently 20, 30, 40, maybe even more of us in the room at any one time. But this time it's allocated seats only, and civil society has 8 of those seats. To put that into perspective, all the UN agencies also have 8 seats to share between them. All the regional groups also have 8 seats to share between them. So this really is a reflection of just the physical limits on how many people are allowed in that room at any one time. And this is why we're trying to make it clear that the in-person participation is limited. And that's why we're also asking people to let us know if you do want to be there in person, so that as the Vienna NGO committee, we can help to manage those 8 seats, because we don't want any conflict, any clashes with security. We don't want people sitting on someone else's lap because there's no seats available. We want to make sure we coordinate it in the best way possible, so that everyone knows what is expected and where they can be. So, registration for those who do want to register for the CND, and as I've said, if you just want to follow the webcast, you don't need to do any of this. But if you do want to register, there's a 2-step process that we would ask you to follow. The first step is to register on the Indico platform, which is the UN's platform for these meetings. The deadline to do that is the 9th of March. In order to do that, you will need a letter on the headed paper of your organization to say that you are part of their delegation. And you can find all the information you need on this in the CND guide that we have on our website. So you do need to register individually on the Indico platform. And it will also ask you on that platform whether you plan to be there in person or online. In addition to that, we also ask you to fill out our own form as the Vienna NGO committee in order to help us manage the space and coordinate the available spaces that we have. So we would ask you by the 7th of March, it needs to be a few days earlier so that we can do any coordination that's needed as the board. By the 7th of March, we would ask you to fill in the VNGOC form as well. So this will ask you, for example, if you are planning on making an intervention, which agenda item do you want to speak? Which plenary sessions would you like to be able to be in the room for? And then we will do the best we can to facilitate that for everybody who plans to be there in person. We would also ask you to fill in the form if you want to observe the committee of the whole, because again, there are limited places. I'm hoping that the amount of places is enough and that we don't have to make any kind of selection for that. But just in case, we do ask you to let us know. And then we can pass that information on to the CND Secretariat to make sure that everyone has the access that they want. So there's two separate processes we ask you to do. And I apologize if that is, complicated. But it's the best way we can think of to manage what is a difficult process, with a mixture of people there in person and people joining online. Mirella also mentioned the informal dialogues. Every year we organise these with some of the key individuals at the CND. So the first one this year will be, as Mirella said, with Ms. Dada Wali, the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime Executive Director, and that's scheduled for Wednesday at 10:30 a.m. Vienna time. That will again be online, and thank you to everyone who submitted questions in advance for that dialogue. I think for those of us in the room, Sarah, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we're hoping that for those of us who are physically there, that you might be able to come to that in person, but that's not confirmed yet because we don't know what rooms are available at the moment to have that meeting. But it would only be really a handful of us who are there anyway in person. So for most people, it will be a meeting online. And then on the Thursday, we have similar Q&A sessions organised with the CND chair, which this year is the ambassador from Belgium. And also with the INCB president and the INCB secretary, that we don't know the time for that yet. We're still waiting for them to confirm, but it will be Thursday morning. The likelihood is that those two will probably be back to back on Thursday morning. And then we hope to have a dialogue with the World Health Organization. That's something that we started doing a couple of years ago, thanks to the suggestions of some of our members. We haven't heard back from them yet, but we're going to continue to try and find a date that we can meet with the World Health Organization staff who are, I don't know if they'll be there in person in Vienna or whether they will also be dialing in online, but I hope we can find time during the week for a Q&A with them as well. As soon as all of this is confirmed, we obviously will be sharing it. I see George's message in the chat. We will be sharing the links and the registration and everything with all the members so that you can join those meetings. And everything will be on our website as well. And then again, this is repeating something that we did last year because the VNGOC has budget. We normally budget for people, to support people's travel to the CND. Obviously, this year that's not possible. So we would love to be able. We're really happy to be able to offer our members the opportunity to apply for small awards, small amounts of funding that they can use to try and improve engagement at the national level, at the local level with the CND online. So just to give you an example, last year we were able to give grants to a number of partners, particularly I think partners in Africa and Asia, some of whom hosted like local events where they gathered people together so that they could all watch the CND together. Some people organize meetings around it, and other people just use the money to pay for internet packages and reliable internet access so that they could engage with the CND and with the side events and not have to worry so much about internet being cut off and things like that. So that's we're really pleased that we can offer that kind of support again. We would encourage you to submit your proposal. I think the deadline is, I see it there, 3rd of March is the deadline so that we can make the selection. But yeah, it's we want to try and do whatever we can to help our members to engage in this meeting. And we do appreciate that with the online meetings, there is a big risk that it just exaggerates the digital divide. But we want to try and do what we can to make sure that it is really accessible to everybody, regardless of where you are around the world. So yeah, please, I would really encourage you to look at this and see and have a think about whether there's something you can do at the national level for you and your members and your partners to be able to enhance access and engagement with the CND. Just the last thing, I think the last slide for me is just to as always, promote the NGO Marketplace. I'm sure most of you are already on there. There's hundreds and hundreds of NGOs now registered on the marketplace. It's, I get an email update every week now on, some of the posts and some of the activities, and it's great to see it expanding and being used by people to share their information, share their news, connect with one another, find a relevant NGO in a certain country working on whether it's prevention or harm reduction or something else. It's a great resource. We're really pleased and thankful to UNODC that we have it in place. So please do use it during the CND and beyond, make the most of this platform. We're very lucky to have this platform in our sector. So yeah, please do register if you haven't already. And please keep sharing your information. If you've got events, side events for CND, the marketplace is a great place to put those on the calendar so that everybody can see. So yeah, and I think that was the last question, the last slide from me. So that leaves us with plenty of time, which is great, for questions. Do we have, I know we still got Mirella with us, do we have Doris and Joe from the CND Secretariat as well? Hi Joe.
Hello.
Lovely to see you. Thanks so much
Yes.
for joining us. Yeah.
Good afternoon.
Do you want to say, could I hand over to you now to say a few words? And
Yes.
Yeah.
Sure, Jamie. I mean, first of all, thank you very much for inviting us. It's a pleasure. Good morning, afternoon to the colleagues joining. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. And yes, we are also looking forward. Doris is joining me in the meeting as well. We are looking forward to welcome civil society to the upcoming CND session, be it in person or remotely. As you already said, Jamie, unfortunately, the situation here in Vienna is not really as stable as it could be in terms of COVID, so that we in a way could go back to business as usual. I mean, it's true that most likely in the beginning of March, there will be some easing of the measures here. But it's not clear yet what the city of Vienna will be doing. So in a way, in the past, the city of Vienna has had also some more severe measures taken than what was applicable for Austria as a whole. So that's unclear. And in a way, the way it works, that once the city of Vienna has in a way announced its measures, then there is a Vienna International Center crisis response team that in a way is setting the measures for meetings within the VIC. So that's where we are also lagging a bit behind. I mean, I would also prefer to be in a situation that it is at this stage clear what to expect by mid-March, but unfortunately there is a cascade of decisions to be taken that then in a way have an impact on what can be done within the CND, and we still have some unclarities. So it is not possible yet to tell you at this moment in time how many in-persons we will exactly be allowed to bring within the VIC. So as you were already putting this in context, I can also say on top of it that even member states at this moment in time have only one representative per member state. So it's really something that affects all stakeholders within the CND. Also for UNODC staff, unless they have really specific roles, they will be asked to participate online. So it is for everybody involved the same. So maybe I can, if I may, hand over. I'm at your disposal to respond to any questions that may arise. Ambassador Doop, the CND chair, is also very much looking forward to have this interaction with civil society. But if I may, maybe I can also ask Doris to say a few words, because she can also give more information on the platform and on other aspects. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joe.
Sure,
Doris, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jamie. Thanks for the invitation. It's a pleasure to join. I mean, I think you had an excellent slide also with all the different options. And I mean, you've already said most of it. I mean, what I can say is we're going to be hosting this year's CND on a platform, something we also used for the Crime Congress. I don't know, maybe some of you also joined for the Crime Congress. As Jamie mentioned, there will be, in addition to, like joining the meetings, there will also be options to do some networking, which we hope you will find useful to get connected. So even if you're joining online, we will also make sure to that all the colleagues that are joining in person will also have the same access to the platform to kind of to bridge and bring together these two different forms of engagement in the Commission. And I'll probably leave it at here, and we're of course happy to answer any questions that there are, Jamie.
Okay, brilliant. And there's already some questions come in, which I'll get to now. And just to remind everyone, if you do have any questions, whether it's questions to Joe and Doris about the logistics of the CND, questions to Mirella from the Civil Society Unit side, or any questions to me or Sarah or the Nominations Committee about any of that kind of stuff around the AGM election, etc., please do use the Q&A box or the chat, and we'll try and get to them now. We've got a bit of time now. So the first question I can see actually does relate to the platform, Doris. And it's Penny's asking in the chat. She's saying that when you sign up on the Indico platform to attend online, the only option for the cow is as a speaker. But obviously we are observers, not speakers. But for the purposes of the platform, do we still select speaker, even though we know as civil society we're not allowed to speak?
Well, this one is, of course, because we don't, of course, just have civil society. We also have member states, and they have limited roles in the cow, right? But this is the reason why this is there. They also have limited roles as speakers in the cow and the plenary. With the agreement that we made with you, Jamie, and the other colleagues, was that you would basically provide us with that list. We will provide a certain number of slots that are available for civil society to observe, as you rightly mentioned, the committee of the whole, and we would then basically change that in the system. So you don't have to click that at this stage that you're a speaker in the cow. You can do so, but we would then basically, based on that list that you share with us, we would make the changes basically on the back end.
Okay. So for now, select that option, but also fill in the VNGOC form that says that you want to observe the cow. We then provide that list to Doris and Joe, and the magic happens behind the scenes. So okay.
Hopefully, yeah.
Thanks so much, Doris. That's brilliant. That's great to clarify. And I see a question from Nasli. Yes. Initially, the VNGOC form had a deadline of this weekend, but we've now realised that we can push that back a lot further, because the board is able to meet on I think the 9th or the 10th to go through things. So the VNGOC form deadline has now extended from, it used to be the February the 27th, but it is now extended until 9th of March. No. Sarah, 9th of March or 7th of March? Sorry.
7th of March and 9th of March for Indico.
Yeah, okay, sorry. Yeah, okay. I should get the dates clear myself. Yeah, so sorry, it has now extended to the 7th of March. So you do still have a bit of time to make those decisions and get your registrations in using those two forms. I also see a quick question from Magda about the dialogue with the CND chair. Yeah, sorry if there was a mistake on the slide. It's the Thursday, the 17th of March. Yeah, apologies for confusion. And it's on the same morning as the INCB dialogue as well. We also have a question in the Q&A. So the first question I see there is, how will attendance be confirmed? So Doris, once someone fills in the Indico form, they receive an email confirmation. Am I remembering that right?
Correct. So you need to have your Indico account. I guess for most of you who already have that, then you receive basically the Indico confirmation. I think you do receive an Indico confirmation. What you definitely will receive is once the onboarding has happened, and this will not happen immediately because this is done in badges, to the actual platform. You will receive an email from an email address that is called UNODC event platform at un.org, where you will, get the link, get your password, and then you're basically good to go. If you follow that link, then you have been registered, and you can go on the platform, change your password, put in your picture, and start networking before the session starts.
Okay, fantastic. And and that question was from Ariel in Paraguay. So hopefully that has helped. And again, if you do register and you don't receive those confirmations that Doris was saying, my recommendation would be to check your junk folder or your spam folder, because sometimes those kind of emails can end up in your spam folder. And if you still don't find that message and you're concerned, just get in touch with us at VNGOC, and we'll try to help as well. So thank you, Doris. So I see there's also a few questions that have come in other languages, which I can't use Google Translate at the moment because I've got so many screens open with the call and stuff. Have you been able to, can you help us with those ones, and maybe we can address those now?
Yeah, so most of those haven't been questions, but mostly just statements on activities. So I don't think we can really address those.
Okay, so are there any other questions that you've seen that I might have missed?
So far not. I think Monica was asking about the Indico deadline, so that would be the 9th of March. So to also keep that in mind. And maybe Doris, if you could also repeat the deadlines for sending in written submissions and or kind of the procedure for oral statements in the plenary. I think that would also be really helpful.
I mean, for the written statement, I would actually, Joe, if you don't know, I would have to check and get back to you. I don't know by heart what the deadline is for that, but it's of course for if someone wants to make a statement in the planner. We always had a very good cooperation with you guys from the VNGOC to make sure we collect that, to also kind of manage the expectations. If I know not all maybe there wouldn't be the same interest for all the agenda items, but that we make sure that we have 3 or 4 speakers for the agenda item, that we can also definitely ensure that all of those that really want to speak can also speak. But it's also a bit from our side a bit easier if we can coordinate with you. So if you get in touch with the VNGOC, if you want to speak on one, I think that would be greatly appreciated. So of course, the earlier we know, the better, that we can already put it on the list and also inform the chair and make sure that there is space for civil society to speak.
Yeah, and that's already on the VNGOC form that we asked to fill in by the 7th. We want you to nominate, to let us know if you want to speak. One of the challenges that Joe and Doris, one of the many challenges that Joe and Doris are facing at the moment, is that because it's online and with the online translation that's required, each plenary session is now 2 hours rather than 3 hours. So already, given that civil society, by the way that it works at CND, we speak after the member states and after the regional groups. It's already, there's going to be a lot of pressure on time, which is why I think, Doris, just as a reminder to everyone, every oral statement this year is limited to 3 minutes. Yeah? Okay. So
yes.
In order to try and let everybody have a go
in
the limited time that's available. So do bear that in mind as well. If you're planning to speak, we have a 3-minute limit. Everybody has a 3-minute limit on their intervention. Yeah.
If I may, Jamie, what we have tried to do is also to bring some additional resources to the plenary. So just for what you come to say, to give more people the opportunity to speak, but we are still, of course, not to the capacity that we had before COVID. So it is indeed of utmost importance, and that's the same what we really also say to all member state speakers, to limit all interventions to 3 minutes.
Yeah, okay. And a follow-up question, which I think relates to this, is also in terms of, you know, the opportunity to speak. It's, as with all CND meetings, that intervention can be made in any of the 6 UN languages. Yeah, so English, French, Spanish, Russian, Chinese, Arabic.
Yes, unless we come into a situation that we come to the end of interpretation time, which will be, you know, and then the chair might in a way suggest to continue in English only. So it's always advisable, if possible, to have, even if the statement is in another language, to have the possibility, even if it's a shortened one, to do it also in English, because that's not excluded. We had that at the time of the reconvene session, that we had to continue in English only. Yeah,
okay, no, that's understood. And the other option that's obviously available to all of you, if you do want to make a written intervention, is you can pre-record your written intervention as well, which I know is welcome, you know, by the Secretariat. So that's also something that you can do, and you can submit that, and it will, you know, for it to be played. What we actually recommend as the Vienna NGO Committee, and this is just learning from experience from the last year and a half, even if you're planning to make your intervention live but online, it might still be worth having a recorded intervention as a plan B, because it's happened quite a few times, hasn't it, where someone's come up to speak, their turn's come, and all of a sudden their internet connection drops out, or there's some other technical problem with the system, or something like that. So, you know, if you are planning to make an intervention, you know, it is suggested, I think it's a good idea to also record your intervention, even if that's just as a backup plan, in case there's any problem, internet connectivity on the day or anything like that.
Indeed, Jamie, and if I may ask here, it's also very important. There are some on our website, there are some requirements that the interpreters put forward to have messages interpreted in all languages. So it's the use of a proper headphone to make sure that. So I would also strongly advise everybody planning to make a video message to check that beforehand, because if that's not really followed, what will happen is that they will just not interpret the message, and there is very little we can do at that moment in time. Yeah, I mean, that's ultimately the prerogative of the interpreter. So in order to avoid any disappointment, please go and check the requirements that the interpreters have compiled and that are available on our website.
And Sarah's put the link to those requirements in the chat as well. And question from Ariel, to which email should we send recorded interventions? That's just to the generic SGB email, which Sarah can share in the chat. Yeah?
Indeed.
Yeah, okay, fantastic.
And then it will basically be then put forward also to the conference management services.
But again, if you are doing that and you're pre-recording something and submitting it, do still fill in that VNGOC form, so that we can still know that you're planning to intervene under that agenda item, and we can then coordinate with Doris and Joe on your behalf.
Yeah.
I just have
Jamie, one other point, as I mean, there are of course some items that are more popular than others, but there are limits to what we can of course accommodate. It's always term permitting. So I mean, I think one of the things we have also very good done in the past is to kind of see that the slots under different agenda items could be used. So that might perhaps also be something that you can do also this time.
Yeah, that's great. And yeah, you're absolutely right. Some agenda items have a list of 30, and then another agenda item will have no one. So it's it's never that even. Doris.
Yeah, just one point, as I had the chance to check with my colleagues. So the deadline for the written NGO statements is the 28th of February.
Okay, and can I just check, because I've seen another follow-up question from Magda about written statements. Does an NGO, obviously an NGO has to have ECOSOC accreditation in order to submit a written statement. Does that NGO have to register in Indico in order to submit a written statement? So for example, if IDPC wanted to submit a written statement, but other than that, we were just going to follow the webcast, so we weren't planning to register on Indico, can we still submit a written statement even though we're not registering anyone for the event? I don't think there'd be any reason why you couldn't.
Well, I mean, this is a question that I could not immediately answer to. I mean, these written statements are based on the resolution that regulates the general interaction between with ECOSOC and UN intergovernmental bodies. So it's not CND specific. I would also believe that there is nothing saying there that in order to submit a written statement, you have actually to be a participant to the meeting. But in a way, everything else that relates to the, in a way, requirements for written statements is contained in that ECOSOC resolution.
Yeah, no, that's great. But thank you. Yeah, so I think, Magda, to answer your question, I don't imagine that will be a problem. I really I can't see why that would be an issue. One other very quick question that I actually have, in terms of those, the smaller number of us that are hoping to be there in person, as well as filling in the Indico registration and obviously filling in the VNGOC form before those deadlines, do we also need to apply? Do we need to also get a grounds pass for the VIC, or is our pass into the building incorporated within that Indico registration? Does that make sense? Do we also need to apply for a grounds pass?
That's why you register in Indico. If you click in person and you don't have a badge, then this would basically be a conference badge that you.
Okay, fantastic. So there's no need to also go through another step and get an annual pass. Okay. Yeah, that's well understood. Thank you.
Well,
okay.
but Jamie, this is just a conference badge then, right? This is just
exactly.
for it's not an annual.
Yeah, so it will only be for those dates. It would only be
exactly.
For 14th
Yes.
to 18th
Yes.
of March. Yeah,
exactly.
if you want to access beyond that, then get an annual pass. Okay, I can't see any other questions in the Q&A or in the chat. I hope I'm not missing any, and please do kind of, I don't know, virtually throw things at me or something if I am missing anyone. But just a last chance, really, if there's any other questions from anyone. Mirella, did you want to say a few words before?
Yes, not few words. I just sorry, someone is passing. I'm just thinking about, you know, Resolution 9631 and the fact of providing statement. Still, it would be a bit awkward that there is a statement made at the CND for an organization that has not registered as a participant. So this is my own interpretation, but also from experience, I would still recommend that if in NGO have a statement, so something to say and an interest, it's an expression also of interest in the Commission. In my view, they should register.
To be on that participants list.
If they are, obviously, because they are ECOSOCs, when they are ECOSOC NGO. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, I've just put this slide back up because I think it's possibly the most important one in terms of what we've just presented. So here you see again the deadlines and the links. Everything's on the VNGOC website and on the CND website. We've been putting the links in the chat here as well. So as I can't see any additional questions, it just leaves me to say a huge thank you to Joe and to Doris and to Mirella for joining us today. And also a big thank you to Sarah for putting this together and for all of her work, like doing these slides and trying to collate all of this different information and you know, really trying to present it in as clear a way as we can for all of you. So thanks so much, Sarah. But also thanks to the translators for today for helping us out with the different translation channels. I hope that all worked well. And the recording and the slides and all the other information will be available on the VNGOC website. So please do keep checking the website, keep following us on social media. And yeah, and if you've got any questions, just let us know. That's what we're here for as a committee. Is to try and answer those questions for you. So all being well, I'll see all of you again on the 10th of March for the pre-orientation and the first part of the AGM. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining us today, and see you in a few weeks.
Thank you, Jamie.